G'day guys, welcome to the SC Playbook question and answer podcast out of NRL Supercoach Round 6. Tim Williams on deck to take the questions from the SC Playbook community, our Discord community to subscribers. Plenty in there today, so let's get through them and start ripping in. At the back end of the show, I will, of course, update my trade and skipper plans for the week, sit starts, all that sort of good stuff for Round 6. Straight into the questions. And the first one from Bry Dandy. G'day, Himothy. Would appreciate your opinion on trading in Twal or Kai Pearce-Paul. I feel like KPP is going to post keeper numbers all year and Twal will regress to his usual output. Which one would you trade in? Kai Pearce-Paul for me. I do like them both as trade-ins, don't get me wrong, so it's no knock on Alex Twal, but like Twal's one that's come in for me this week. And I like so many things about him between like 65 in base, the big minutes that he's playing, he's starting to offload, and that's great, but it's still Alex Twal. I don't mean to be rude, but like with so many high upside, props in the game, right, maybe they're not all popping off at the moment. We know Payne Haas is struggling with a little bit of injury. Terrell May, back to bigger minutes, he's front row teammate or middle teammate at the Tigers, who's an option. If Tino can sort of get back to anywhere near his best, he's dirt cheap. These blokes with a lot of try scoring, try assisting opportunity. The thing with Twal is he looks a great buy whilst he's playing these big minutes and punching out huge base stats and offloading. But if the minutes regress, he's a sell. It's as simple as that. Like if he gets to sort of 55 to 60 minutes per game and maybe Terrell May picks up a few extra minutes per game as the season goes on, I think it'll be a sell. So, like I said, I'm bringing Twal in. It'd kill me, but I think there's a world where I sell him in he's never going to be an urgent sell, Alex Twal. That's the thing, because he's not going to drop to 45 minutes, or I wouldn't imagine, because he's a good footballer and he does a great job and Benji obviously loves him. So it's never going to be like a hurry up, we need to sell Alex Twal sort of scenario, but I think he might be a season keeper. Gun to head, I'd probably say he's not. Part of why I'm getting him in is that I'm sort of thinking, geez, if he does keep punching out 70 minutes per game, or he played 80 last week and keeps banging out these numbers with ease, then yeah, everyone's going to have him and I'm eventually going to have to bite the bullet. He's a rock-solid, reliable play each week. But yeah, I don't think he's a must by any means. Kai Pearce-Paul, he's one where, again, you're paying onwards of 100 sort of K, about 90 odd K more for him, but he is busting lots of tackles, offloading a shitload, setting up tries, scoring tries. He has this huge upside where I think of the two, despite being a bit more expensive, I think I prefer Kai Pearce-Paul as a buy if you can only get one of them. Next one in from Mefo. Hey Timbo, trying to figure out my last trade. I'm going Kinney in my flex to one of Latrell, Kai Pearce-Paul, Toltel Cola as a sneaky pod, or Casey McLean. Who would you go? Appreciate the help. All very good buys, all appealing in their own ways. If it were me, I would probably be going Latrell or Kai Pearce-Paul. I think, what's KPP's break even? Because I know Latrell's sort of mid to sort of late 50s. Latrell's at 59 and Pearce-Paul, he's a lot lower, obviously, off the back of your big scores. He's 16. So I'm kind of in the boat where leading into this round, I don't own either and I want both. Yeah, tough one as to who you get first, but based on break evens, if you're sitting in the boat of wanting both, like I am, break evens wise, probably Kai Pearce-Paul first because he's going to go up a fair bit in value, especially if he can score well with a try or a try assist or something again this week. Latrell scares me though because, God, he can just pop off on any given week. He's sort of scratching the surface of what we know he's capable of. Could also have a 30 in him, but yeah, he's looking the goods, Latrell. But yeah, I'd probably lean to Kai Pearce-Paul, but it'd be him or Latrell for me this week if you toss them between the two. One from Grumps, flying along in the top 100. Well done, mate. That's a ripping start to the season. I'm not even jealous at all of you, mate. Sticking with my boy Payne Haas. So other than Walshy, bracket I blame Guru, agreed, no fires to put out. Is Chan to Twal a pointless luxury? I think so. Chan's playing 80 minutes, attacking upside. Like, it's not a bad... Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it. I mean, I know Twal is just punching out these big base stats and good numbers, but I don't know, Joe Chan just on that right edge, running off Jerome Hughes, I think he's an indefinite hold. And, there's a world where we sell him in a few weeks' time. He has, for now, peaked in price, but he's got a good work rate, although he had bugger all runs last week. But it's Penrith and they lost by 50, so make of that what you will. I wouldn't be too concerned. Yeah, I think it's a little bit sideways. You could say it's a slight upgrade, but I don't know. I'm not convinced it is the way Joe Chan is going. The thing is with Joe Chan, he might punch out a 50 this week again against the Warriors, but the following week, it could be another 110. The Storm are going to improve on what they've done in recent weeks. There will be points. Jerome Hughes is a magician. So, yeah, as I said, whilst slightly an upgrade possibly, it's not a trade I'd be making. One from Oz Yeezers. Hey, Timbo, the Latrell fade just gets harder and harder. You're not wrong. He's one where I made that Friday after, said a few times, I made that Friday afternoon of round one move to, I did like a 3-trade swing, and Latrell out was one of them. And it ended up okay because I think Cobbo I had in my team, I got rid of him, who ended up going terribly. It was Iro came in, who started a little bit underwhelming, but he's starting to bounce back, thankfully. And there are a few different things there that worked out okay, but losing Latrell in the process, who I had all preseason, he's hurt me, Latrell. So, yeah, you don't want to be fading Latrell much longer. Given how bad St. George look, would you trade Val out for Latrell, or is that a waste trade on a sideways trading guns? No, I don't think it's a waste based on the fact that just the teams they're playing. You kind of alluded to it, but Latrell's on this red-hot attacking left edge of the Bunnies. Val's on the right edge of the Dragons that is okay at times, but they didn't score a point against the Cowboys at home at Cogra last week. That's just about all that you need to know. So there is a degree of sideways there. What I will say, though, is with a lot of these premium CT dubs, you're sort of looking at ceilings and what is their ceiling. Now, Val has a great ceiling of 150 sort of plus in him. But the way the Dragons are playing right now, I don't know that he does. Latrell could go 150 on any given week, which is why, as far as those who have faded Latrell to this point, he's averaging the 90s. It's hurt us, but seriously, there'll be 150 sooner rather than later. The Bunnies play, I think it's the Dragons next week, and yeah, that could be a 150 for Latrell. So, whilst slightly sideways, when you look at the fact that Latrell and the Bunnies can just pop off in any given week, yeah, I think it's a pretty solid move. Now, I did do the SC Playbook subscriber exclusive Discord, the question and answer last night, and I touched on a fair few of these in there, so I won't double down on too many of them unless they are very relevant ones to the general Supercoach, and we want to chat about them. And this is one of them. But Bry Dandy, do you consider Chester a buy if you still didn't start with him? I had a long, hard think about this when it came up in the Q&A last night, but on a week where CT dub cheapies are not great. I don't really like any of them. Chester, 43 in base this season. The Cowboys coming good. He had 54 in base last week, which is absurd. That's base alone, not even including your tackle breaks and that sort of stuff. So 74 without a try in there. Excellent stuff for a bloke at 356K. The break-even is 15, but he had a 27, which was by a big margin his lowest score of the season. That will drop out of his rolling average next after this week. So he'll have the 74 and whatever he scores this week against the Broncos. The Broncos, who all of a sudden Adam Reynolds just got ruled out. Ezra Mann was apparently limping around at training, not looking fantastic. Reece Walsh is out. Ben Hunt's out. Payne Haas is playing injured. So all of a sudden that matchup doesn't look too frightening. So yeah, on what he's doing at the moment, I can't knock the buy. He then plays his next 2 games after that in Townsville against Manly, which is great. The Sharkies tougher, but again, the Townsville factor. So, yeah, hard to knock the Tom Chester buy. Next question coming in from Bitch Mission. Keon v. Trey Mooney. Who to sell for Kai Paul? Both losing cash. One plays 65 to 70 minutes. One plays 40 to 50. I think you've probably answered your own question there. So Trey Mooney has a break-even of 71. Just the 40 minutes last week, 42 in base. Not too much else to go with that. Yeah, a bit underwhelming this season after the good start over in Vegas. But even then, and I copped a bit of stick for not owning Trey Mooney after that. And I said it at the time, but he had that try, which had a line break, which is off the Dom Young tap back for 94 points. Since then, he's regressed massively. again, I know there was I think there's a sin bin and a suspension, so it's not like he's been poor and he's been getting through a lot of work, but just the minutes haven't quite been there. So, yeah, I think you can probably move him on, especially if he's in the 2RF with so many good 2RF buys around at the moment. Keon is concerning, right? Because he's managing this knee issue, but he's been named this week. He's playing big minutes for the Bunnies. The difference is, I think, if Keon comes out against the Raiders and continues to play his big minutes and looks good, like he has 62 in base. He hasn't scored this year, no try assist. I don't think he's had like a line assist or line break or anything. We know Keon's got these in him despite playing through the middle. Keon very quickly, and you could argue the same about Trey Mooney to be fair, but Keon prior to the news around the knee and that doggies performance, I was like, I wanted him in my team sooner rather than later. And then the news came out of the knee. I said, oh, okay, probably don't need to buy a bloke with an injury concern there. He could be a buy again by next week. He could come out, play 80 minutes, have 80 in base, 100 in base and power, score a try for 120, whatever. With a similar enough break even, Keon a bit higher, unless you really need the extra cash this week to facilitate another trade, I'd give Keon one more week and see what he does. And if he comes out and minutes are a bit limited and he's sort of, the knee looks like a bit of a concern, trade him next week. It's not going to cost you that much money. If he comes out and scores 50 odd, it might cost you a 15, 20K or something, which isn't the end of the world. Yeah, because you'd be spitting chips if he comes out and all looks well and he scores a try, etc. So I'd hold Keon for one more week and sell Trey Mooney. Question in from Huncho Lini. Thoughts on Tolotau Kola as a trade-in with upside? I feel Manly are on the up. Yeah, I mean, he's doing some great things, isn't he, Tolotau Kola? And Manly had one good game. They literally lost 3 in a row leading into that Dolphins fixture where they were fantastic. And Seabold out, Foz in, they just look like a brand new team, didn't they? Does this continue though? Because we see quite often, not as much in the last couple of years, but I know there was definitely a thing in the past where interim coaches would come in and the first game or first couple of games even, they had a really good record of winning. It's one game. The Dolphins were pretty ordinary in it. Manly were superb. The draw is there, I'll give you that. Like Dragons into Cowboys, into Parramatta. Like, it looks good. I'm concerned about Manly. I don't trust them after they started the season. I mean, you go back to that Knights game in round 2. Tolotau Kola scored 23. He's another one where if he's in a better side, yeah, you'd nearly just lock him in because he's fantastic. 33 in base per game is really good. He's had 2 games of 40 in base this season. He busts tackles. He looks lively. I'm just not convinced on Manly despite the one good win. I said the games to come are really appealing, but what does he do in tougher games against the Panthers, Broncos down the track, the Tigers are playing good footy, etc. Numbers this year, like he has in his 4 games, 3 tries, 2 try assists, which is on brand for him. He's bloody good. He scored a lot of tries last year. A lot of tackle breaks per game. He's had 6 line breaks so far this season, a couple of line break assists. Not that you need to be having 20 runs per game, but if we're talking elite CT dubs, his recent weeks runs-wise have been 12, 14, 12, and then in round 1 he had 16 in the wet against the Raiders. That was extra time as well. Yeah, I think he's an okay buy. He could continue to erupt. Scoring really well, average 82. I am just going to target teams that are going a lot better than Manly. And if they have, in fact, turned a corner under Foz and they keep doing this, yeah, you'll be onto a winner. Guys, I did have lots of people reach out over the long weekend and they're at the local Botlow pub, wherever it might have been, and they're like, geez, thank you for that hot tip on the weekend. You're an absolute oracle. What a great bit of advice that was. And it was to go out and get yourself a Mountain Culture beer, status quo pale ale. Been plugging it for a couple of months now. They are on board with us this season, Mountain Culture Beer Co. So very thankful to their support. And I've had people flicking through pictures from the Botlow, from the pub, wherever it might be. You can get on a bunch of taps at a bunch of different pubs around Australia. And just said, mate, Great tip, great beer. Rated Australia's #1 brewery, winning the prestigious Gab's Hottest 100 Craft Beer Award with a status quo pale ale for the 4th year on the trot. Brewed out of the mountains, they are looking at going one better than the Penrith Panthers, the local side out there who did 4 on the trot. They're going for 5 on the trot next year, the status quo pale ale. So guys, very grateful to the support. If you are keen to give it a crack yourself, head to mountainculture.com.au and use the discount code MountainCulture4Pete to receive 10% off beers with your first order. One of the great drops. Give it a crack this weekend. Question coming in from 40s F150s. I'm already doing Mooney to KPP and Walsh to Sasangi. Would you boost and do Kiraz or Val to Nico? Thanks, big fella. Yeah, I probably would. Probably nearly do Kiraz, right? I mean, it's hard. They're two genuine guns of the game who I suspect will be in our final teams. I think Kiraz definitely will. The doggies just need to click, and also he's just carrying, I think it's a shoulder concern or something, so he just needs to get back to full fitness. So he will be a buy again at some stage, but just with the injury concern, he's not quite there. The Dragons, I've spoken about Val just looking terrible, and Nico, who's about to erupt. He's averaging like 100 already. So the bye next week, but I don't think there's any major knock on going early on Nico. So yeah, I think if you want, I'd be pulling the trigger on one of those. What's the biggest priority? Atkinson to Nico, this from Brucey 26, or Firemarni to Trell? I think Firemarni to Trell. So, I mean, Atkinson, for what it's worth, has a decent matchup this week against Manly, in theory. But we've said that a few times about him, but the Dragons obviously aren't looking good. But he has a 40 last week, a low score from the week before, drops out. If he can score well this week, the thing about that, if Atkinson can score well this week, Sharkies are on the bye next week, so you'll get a price rise from him this week, and then hopefully another price rise from him next week, and then you can go Atkinson to Nico after the bye. Firemarni, an okay matchup against the Eels, but Titans just aren't looking great either. Latrell, a higher break-even than Nico, but he has the Dragons next week. So you get 2 weeks of Trell, be 1 week of Nico. You get a look at Atkinson as well in that time. So, yeah, I think I'd go to the Latrell play. One from Tim. Hey, Timmy, great name. Agreed, mate. Thoughts on Marky, Mark being Mark Nawaqanitawase. Match up against the Sharks, who just gave up a hat-trick to Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, and Roosters, who have a good run afterwards. I'm tossing up between him and McLean. Hard to knock Marky Mark. He's so, I shouldn't say so, but, very Roosters form relevant, like any winger in the competition, to be fair. Like I said, if Val was playing for the Panthers right now, he'd average about 180. And Marky Mark, 69-point average to start the season, a base of 31. He had 46 in base against Manly prior to that bye. Comes up against that Iro and Stone Street edge, which, as you said, hasn't been great. Pardon me. With Jesse Ramian out on the other edge and Hiroti coming in, who's reasonable defensively. Do the Roosters look to attack that one a little bit more, potentially? But, scores of 50, 57, 60 prior to that. He's 675K with a break-even of 61. As I said, he can erupt on any given week. I find this game hard to pick, the Sharks and Roosters. Both of them, at their best, are well-beaters. At their worst, are diabolical. I do think it's going to be a good game, though. Should be points flying over in Perth. Meant to be dry conditions, I believe, as well. So, yeah. I mean, my gut feel is just doesn't need to happen this week. But you mentioned there's been some success down that edge for other teams this season and very recently as well, including Dallin. But I'd probably wait till after the Sharks game. The break-even's 61, so he shouldn't rise even if you go tons up. He's not going to go up an astronomical amount. But yeah, into the Knights, Dragons, Broncos who have the injury woes, Titans, Cowboys. It's a good run, isn't it? So yeah, good little pod play and one that I'll probably look more into next week, but Supercoach is all about getting ahead of the pack, isn't it? And if he comes out and tons up against the Sharks and then people flock to him next week for the good run, granted, Knights playing great footy, so yeah, I back yourself. If you like Marky Mark, grab him this week. For anyone that has had a tough Supercoach week out there, have a listen to Bready Boy's week. He says, if anyone in the community is complaining this week that things have been a little tough, try this on for size. Parramatta fan, lost in Golden Point. West Ham fan, lost quarterfinal of FA Cup on penalties. Carlton fan overrun by the Roos in the fourth quarter. He placed 109,000th for the week in Supercoach, his worst ever weekly result. He dropped 81,000th overall, his worst position ever. My next week is another week. Yes. So, Brady boy, thank you for shedding some light on your week and making everyone feel just that little bit better about their weeks, because that is a horror show. Question from Trento. I already have Jenkins. Good for you. Thoughts on going Val to McLean and running both? Yeah, I can't knock the McLean by. Playing awesome footy, 33 in base, busting tackles. He's just looking electric. Back-to-back tons, break-even of 8. To go that little link up there, yeah, if they continue to light up, that draw's about to get even softer than what it's been post this Doggies game. And I've said it before, but there's also no such thing as a soft draw for the Panthers at the moment. They're just putting every team in the competition to the sword. So, yeah, can't knock the McLean play. Clem Cassidy on Tuesday night on the SC Playbook podcast had a really good point around, for those of us, and I think it's roughly about 80% of top-ranked coaches that aren't going on the Jenkins train and are basically just saying, all right, if you get out of hand and keep scoring tries, then good luck to you. Good way to sort of, I suppose, take a little bit of the pain away of not owning Jenkins if he does continue to do this, is the Casey McLean play, and have that little link up of, all right, at least if McLean is setting up for a lot of these tries and they're both scoring well, it can offset the Tom Jenkins pain a little bit. That's, of course, not to say that McLean's going to set up every one of his tries and get in on the action as well, but there's every chance with the new try sort of Supercoach point system and the try assists, a lot of them going to last pass. Centre's getting a lot more this year. That McLean will be in on the action, as we've seen in recent weeks with his tons. I mean, the 3 weeks prior to that, he did score 49, 76, 38 when Jenkins was popping off, so it's not necessarily going to correlate, but just a decent little play, McLean at 691k that, as I said, it can offset Jenkins a little bit if that hedge continues to go bananas. So, yep, no knock on the Casey McLean play, playing some serious footy. Question from Jonty Moore. With a lot of cheapy CT dubs being close to getting moved on, who are your top 3 CT dub purchases if you had none of them? One thing I will say, and I think most people are doing this anyway, but we see year after year after year, CT dub cheapies start a little bit slow, like a lot of them have this year. You know, Setutu, Firemarni, Tommy Chester's going pretty well. Leo, all it takes is one game of scoring a try or two and having that 70, 80, 90-point score, and it just injects another run of cash generation in them. And as people start to cull them, and I think it'll probably be more next week, and that's myself included for what it's worth, but if you can sort of hold them for that extra 1 or 2 weeks and this happens, like that could be an extra 150k that you bank from a player that you already own. So big watch on those guys this week. But yeah, in terms of the options, look, I've spoken about a lot of them already. I've spoken a lot about Latrell, who I think people need to look to get in. Simi Sasangi is an interesting one. I thought people might have flocked him a little bit more this week. I mean, he's the 4th most traded in player, and he's owned now, as it stands, by 50% of Supercoaches in the top 10%, but like 95 points last week, a -2 break even, dual tour FCT dub, still very affordable at 585k. That price will start to not necessarily get out of hand, but you know, he'll be 650k, you know, maybe even towards 700 if he keeps going well before you know it, and then you're paying what he's worth kind of thing. So all the value will be out of him. I'm surprised he's probably not a little bit higher than that amongst top-ranked coaches, just doing great things. And between dual position, big work rate, tackle buster, offloader, he's just ticking basically every box. So I thought Simi Sasangi at the price might have been a little bit more popular this week. That being said, he's the most traded in CT dub. So, you know, people aren't entirely missing, but I think he's a terrific option this week if you don't own him. And, you know, look at guys like Casey McLean and Tom Jenkins. He's over 100k cheaper than McLean, about freaking $500,000 just about cheaper than Tommy Jenkins. Obviously not that much, but so yeah, Simi Sasangi, I think for those that aren't buying, I think he's a terrific pickup this week. All right, my trade and skippers for NRL Supercoach round 6. Looking at that play of Haas and Walsh out, Twal and Kai Piss-Paul in. Love what Kai Piss-Paul's doing this season. I spoke about him and Twal early in the show, so probably no need to go into that too much. Payne Haas is an interesting one. I don't I don't feel great about the sell, but I do think it makes sense. Probably my biggest thing around him, and look, I've spoken at a fair bit of nauseam about him, particularly on beers and break-evens and on different bits and pieces this week, but, I'll just touch on it quickly. He will miss round 12 to Origin, 15 to Origin, 16 to a bye, 18 to Origin and 19 to a bye. So from 15 to around 19, he misses 4 or 5 games. So again, I've said it a few times, but a big part of me trying to hold him was that I'm like, he drops 100 odd K, whatever. People need to use 2 trades to get him out and back in. I just don't think people are going to be trying to get him back in unless he really erupts this week in that little section before Origin 1. And he might. And I think with these Broncos injuries, that is only going to help Payne Haas because it just means they're going to be in tight games and he'll have to play bigger minutes. But yeah, I just think a 130 break even, which isn't heaps for Payne Haas of all people, but he played 55 minutes last week. Fantastic. 49 points in that game. He didn't have an offload in it. He obviously didn't look 100%. So I just think with the money that you can get from, say, a Twal or whoever you might be trading him to bolster your squad elsewhere, it's probably going to be worth it. And the other part of it is that scares me with that AC joint injury. If it goes and there's too much pain or something early in a game and he comes out with a 20 or 30-point score, which can happen with these sorts of injuries, he falls on it awkwardly, whatever it might be, and he doesn't come back on, everyone who has soul, which is most, they're just going licking their lips going, sweet, you have to trade him next week, he'll drop a ton of cash. That's what really scares me with Payne Haas. So trading Payne Haas out. The one I'm deliberating over a little bit this week is, do I boost and go Isaiah Yeo to Latrell Mitchell? Obviously, that looks like a pretty decent move. I'm thinking, do I need to boost for it? Because I'm looking at the Dragons matchup of Latrell next week and I go, yeah, I really want him for that because that is terrifying. It's a Bunnies home game. So I'm thinking I probably will. And I also want to move one of my CT Dub cheapies, could be anyone, but one of them to via Jules or a 2RF, whoever it might be, to Tedesco or Dill Edwards next week. So I'm sort of thinking maybe I boost this week and just get the Latrell out of the way. I'm planning on selling Isaiah Yeo next week anyway, and then look to go, whoever it might be, to a gun fullback next week. So they're my rough plans. I'm not locked into that boost yet, but I'm leaning to that purely on the fact that Latrell just scares me. And again, I know he's averaging 90 odd, but part of me feels like I've gotten away with a little bit of that and there's a big score coming. So as a trade, I'll inevitably wanting to make next week. I'm like, just do it this week. His break even's, what did I say, 59 or something. So I'm leaning towards maybe doing that this week and then I've got a plan in place to get the gun fullback next week, depending on how players go this week. But I'll be getting Teddy or Edwards next week. So leaning towards that. In terms of plays this week in my CT dub, I've got Herbie on the bye. Iro Sasangi will play. I've learnt my lesson. Play Tom Chester, who's an animal. Watch him get 20 this week. Apologies in advance. And then of Setu 2, Makasini and Fiamani. God, this is reluctant, but I'm going to play Setu 2. I played him that week before he got dropped. I think it was against the Gold Coast, and he got through a ton of work, busted tackles, offloaded, and was really busy. The fact that he's been dropped last week, and he's back in this week, he will have a big point to prove with David Farley to come back next week from suspension. He'll be trying to win this spot. I don't know how the Dragons are going to go in this game, but far out, they have to show something after last week, how bad they were. I think he'll be a reasonable play. I think he's every chance to score a try this week, and if not, I'm hoping he can bust out sort of that 45 to 50 in base and power. Yeah, I mean, it's a lottery, isn't it, with that sort of cheapy CT dub outside of Chester, so I'm going to play Setu 2 there. A lot of the sort of mid-range and cheapy CT dubs like Noah Martin, Helam Lukey, Joe Chan, they're all going so well that it's sort of making the rest of the sit-B starts in the team, Arama Howe, pretty straightforward. VC, Nathan Cleary tonight, bang, captain Tom Trebojevic. If Cleary can pop off and I don't have to play Setu 2, happy days. Alrighty, guys, that will do us for the SC Playbook question and answer podcast for NRL Supercoach round 6. Hope you enjoyed and hopefully you got a little bit out of it. Have a great end to your week. Good luck to your Supercoach teams this week.